Okay, so now we will discuss in more detail about the MITRE attack framework. We will see that what the attack framework is and how this attack framework can be helpful for me to get more insight into the threat hunting. In the previous videos and sessions, we have seen that how the threat hunting works, what are the different models into the threat hunting, and how we can implement these threat hunting models. But now we are pushing our more efforts into this particular framework that is called the MITRE attack framework. So if you can see, the beauty of the MITRE attack framework is MITRE attack framework is created for the ICS, it's created for the enterprise, and it is also created for the mobile. Okay. So broadly, these three areas are there for which the framework is being developed. ICS means industrial control systems. Then we have a enterprise matrix. Then we have a mobile matrix. So because nowadays, whenever we talk about the security devices or the type of IT assets or OT assets into our environment, we usually can identify and segregate on the basis of these three. That is ICS, enterprises, and the mobile devices. So we will see when we practically understand this particular framework, then we will see that how these three can be mapped. But broadly, if I say the entire framework has around 14 steps. So the framework is usually having the 14 steps, and we will see one by one the what are the steps is. So the first steps is reconnaissance. So if you remember from my initial slide, the first step is reconnaissance. So reconnaissance means discovery of the crucial detail about a target, such as a system vulnerability and a potential attack vector. It means if somebody is trying to scan your systems, like what are the open ports, what are the services you are running, and what type of applications you are running, what are the vulnerabilities into the application, and how these could be potentially executed. So this is called the first phase. So we have first phase as reconnaissance. In the second phase, we have resource development. So to orchestrate an attack, to execute an attack, you need to acquire re- required infrastructures, developing capabilities for compromising the accounts. So in the second phase, the task is given for resource development. So you people are well known that to execute an attack, you need to have resources. So in the initial phase, we have done the reconnaissance. In the second phase, we are going to talk about the resource development. Then we have initial access. So attacker try to do an initial access with your organization, with your IT and OT infrastructures. He will find the entry vector to infiltrate the target, like spear phishing. They can do smishing, wishing, or any type of issues. He can also do the supply chain. He can use your supply chain, that it can inject a malware into certain hardwares and then supply that hardware to your office. If you remember that Stuxnet, I think most of the people know about this particular Stuxnet. So it has orchestrated using the technique called baiting, dropping a USB. So initial access can be done using any type of techniques. In the fourth step, we are doing the execution. So what actually execution is? So execution is running the adversary controlled malicious code. So the attacker is having initial access to your system. Now he is landed into a system, and after the landing, he will try to execute. Now, in the 1, 2, and 3 steps, there are lot of IOA definitely being generated into your system. Lot of indicator of attack has been generated into your system. You just need to check into your system that what are the changes has been done. There are lot of privilege escalation is there. Lot of scripts has been run. Lot of logs may be generated. So just by looking to all the IOA artifacts, you can see that my system is under an attack. At this particular moment of time, step number 3, no attack has been orchestrated. Only the planning to orchestrate an attack, it actually done in this particular step. The actual attack starts from this particular point, that is step number 4. In step 4, the adversary is running certain scripts. He can use your command prompt, he can use your root, he can use your PowerShell to run any script. So running adversary control malicious code or running the entire tool for the target system is basically the part of the execution in the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So these are the different steps that the framework is using. So basically, the execution represent the techniques that the adversary used to run the malicious code, and commands on the target system after gaining initial access. See, this is very important. If initial access is not given to the system, then all the remaining steps cannot be executed. And these initial access usually done by the phishing attempt, they can be done by the baiting, they can be done by the juice jacking. So these execution methodology could be there. When we see in the upcoming sessions, there are certain attack metrics like command and scripting interpreter. There are scheduled tasks and jobs. So these could be used for the execution. There are certain system services like net start, and sometimes we have SC command to configure the service. So these different services like WMI, Windows Management Instrumentation Tool, or exploit for execution tool. So these tools could be used, these techniques can be used for orchestrating particular attack. So execution of something is a very important part. Now the next part into the attack scenario is the persistence. So if we talk about the one word persistence, persistence is a very important area, and in the persistence it is used to describe the techniques adversary is using to maintain the maintaining the access. So after so much of efforts, see at this particular time, so much of efforts, so much of efforts the malicious actor has already given. So do you think he will leave your system without putting the enough controls for the persistence? So in order to use to maintain the access to the compromised system, even after reboots, otherwise the system will reboot and definitely the persistence will be lost. So no, they will inject the malicious code in such a way that your persistence should be maintained. So even after reboots, credential changes, or even potential interruptions, the persistence will not be removed. So persistent methods are crucial to an attacker's ability to sustain a long-term access and often serve as a foundation for further malicious activities. So this is a very important area that we need to understand, that persistence usually is the most toughest part for an attacker to do, because you might format your computer, you might reboot your computer, you might change the credentials, but attacker has done the execution in such a way that he used to have a permanent and most of the times persistence with your system. So these are the major points that are covering, like reconnaissance, resource development, initial access, execution, and persistence.